Have you ever heard the name Felipa Culala? What about Kumander Dayang-dayang? If the name doesn't ring a bell, then you're definitely missing out on one of the fiercest and most ferocious leaders the Philippines has ever had. For today's video, we'll be learning all about this kick-ass lady and learn the true definition of a Filipino girl boss. Not much is known about Felipa Culala's life except that she was born to a peasant family in Barrio Mandili, Candaba, Pampanga. She grew up to be a boyish young woman who commanded attention from everyone she met. Scholars are unsure whether descriptions of her being large and imposing were because of her height or simply because of her charisma. Either way, Felipa was born to be a generala. When the Japanese arrived on Philippine soil, Felipa did not hesitate to join the resistance. She shed the name of Felipa and adopted the nom de guerre, Dayang-dayang instead. She named herself after Haji Dayang-dayang Piandao, the current leader of Sulu at the time, and another woman who was a born leader. Perhaps Felipa admired her so much, she was inspired to take up her name in this new fight against the Japanese. Though her ranks were small in number, they were mighty. Taking center stage as the leader, Dayang-dayang organized dozens of soldiers in her hometown to join the resistance. Hearing about this rebellion, the Japanese came to Candaba and arrested a number of Dayang-dayang's troops. What's worse, they even sent a detachment of soldiers and Filipino policemen to punish the town. But this time, Dayang-dayang was ready. Her ranks had grown to number over 100 people, and through her leadership, they were able to successfully ambush the enemy before they could even reach the town. They killed around 40 soldiers and 68 Filipino collaborators and traitors. But not just that, they even managed to seize the enemy's ammunition. You have to understand how amazing of a feat this was. Back then, it seemed like the only way to defeat such a powerful enemy as the Japanese forces was to organize a whole battalion of Filipinos and come up with a way to get the most high-end weapons. It seemed like that was the only way we could even stand a chance against the Japanese. But Dayang-dayang proved that wrong. Her victory was powerful because it proved the guerrilla strategies could be effective not just in undermining the enemy, but also in defeating them. Guerrillas are typically smaller groups who utilize the natural terrain of their environment to overwhelm their enemies. Through Dayang-dayang's leadership, the people of Mandeli were able to do just that, and it sent a powerful message across the country. This victory later became known as the Battle of Mandili, known as the first ever successful attack on Japanese forces. News quickly spread of this victorious ambush as well as the Amazona who led it, which inspired people in other communities to take up arms as well. Taking the fight to the next level, Dayang-dayang became one of the founding members of the Hukbong Bayan Laban sa Hapon or the Hukbalahap guerrilla forces. In recognition of her strong leadership, she earned the spot in the military committee of the Hukbalahap. Back then, she was the only woman to hold such a high rank in the esteemed committee, whose other members included Casto Alejandrino, Bernardo Poblete, and the great Luis Taruc, who was the overall commander of the entire Hukbalahap. But sadly, Dayang-dayang did not stay in the Hukbalahap's good graces for long. As she rose through the ranks, so did too the bad rumors that followed her. Rumors began to spread of Dayang-dayang's bad attitude. Allegedly, she abused her position to demand absolute subservience from her ranks. Some even said that she hated taking orders from other people and demanded to be addressed as generala. Worst yet, some also said that Dayang-dayang demanded gifts and offerings from the local communities the Hukbalahap visited. They said she demanded a whole feast of pork and chicken each time she entered a barrio. These allegations, whether true or not, eventually reached the Huk higher-ups. She was eventually tried, found guilty, and sentenced to death by firing squad by the very group she helped build. To this day, it is unknown whether rumors of Dayang-dayang's bad attitude were true or not. Some say it is possible she was merely a victim of discrimination due to her high position in the organization, despite being a woman. Meanwhile, some people also maintain that Dayang-dayang had her excesses. Whatever the case, it is undeniable that Dayang-dayang contributed a lot to Philippine resistance against the Japanese. Without her bravery, we would not be able to enjoy the independence we have today. Kumander Dayang-dayang remains a well-loved figure, especially in Central Luzon history. Through learning her story, may we always remember that the fight for a better country can only be won through a righteous and often violent revolution. We all know about Rizal and Bonifacio. There is no doubt they paved the way for Philippine independence, and it's only right that they be celebrated as heroes to this day. But we must always remember that our independence was hard-won. It did not only take one or two people to free our country from its chains. Rather, hundreds of thousands of Filipinos gave their blood, sweat, and tears for that to happen. One of those was the great Felipa Culala, also known as Kumander Dayang-dayang. When we learn about our history, let's not forget that the Philippines' fight for independence does not end with only Bonifacio or Rizal.